Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are making this kind of Wizard of Oz, Good Witch, Bad Witch tumbler that my customer originally had sent me and wanted to tweak different parts of it. I literally just found out like 4 days ago that the maker of the cup that she sent me made a tutorial on it. So I'm gonna link her down below. That's who inspired this whole thing, and it was beautiful. Loved her idea. So we took it a little bit further with this one. It's pretty complicated with lots of steps, so be gentle with yourself, have patience. It's definitely worth it, and I hope you guys love it as much as I do. Let's get into it. So we're starting off today with our 30-ounce stubby tumbler from Craft Haven, and we're going to mark it into 4 sections. You really only need 2 sections for this, but I always just mark it in 4 just in case. So I like to use my bullseye that I print out, and I will center my cup as best I can on top of it. It doesn't need to be perfect. Center it on there and mark all 4 sections. Once we have those bottom 4 sections marked off, I'm going to use my angle ruler and mark off the quarters up on the top. Now that we have all of our sections marked off, we can go ahead and start taping. I'm going to take my tape from the mark at the top of one end, halfway around my cup, and just past the opposite mark on the bottom. So the back edge of the tape needs to go right past and line up with that tick mark that's on the back. Once you have that first piece done, I take my knife and I will slice off the top of that tape. And that's going to give me the angle for the next piece. That way they're going at the same curve. If I have the same angle, if I'm applying them at the same angle on the top, then they're going to curve the exact same way. And I don't need to worry about having 2 tape lines that aren't even or look wonky. So I've pulled a second piece of tape here, and you'll see I am lining these up, and I'm going to cut that second piece of tape at the exact angle that my first one is. And make sure that it is on the correct sticky side, otherwise you'll end up with the same angle but opposite, and it will go the completely wrong way. So just line up your angle on the outside of your mark, and as long as that angle matches up with the top rim, you can lay it flat and it will curve exactly like the other side does. So you can see here I've got 2 even sections and the curve matches on both sides. And the next thing I'm doing is painting one of these sides white with regular white acrylic paint from Walmart. You can spray paint this, absolutely. It would definitely be faster and easier. I do not like spray painting in the cold, so whenever I can, I prefer to use acrylics when it gets colder outside, and it has gotten colder here. So I did end up spray painting this. I lied to you. I realized I did not have a hot pink acrylic paint. So I did take this out and I spray painted over that white hot pink. Okay, once I spray painted that, I glittered it once it was dry. I used It's Electric from Diamonds and Dust. It was a hot pink iridescent glitter, and I used the epoxy method. I do like using a little bit more glitter or more epoxy on Peekaboos because of the fact that my glitter is going to lay flat and it won't take so many layers to get it smooth. When you're applying glitter with the epoxy method, it's always easier to do so with a warm cup. So what you don't see is the heat gun that I have that I used to warm this cup up before I put epoxy on it. It's going to be a lot smoother and easier going on, and you'll be able to get a thinner coat. And as I was applying this, apparently my paint was not completely dry. I did get a few spots that I had to go back and fix later, and luckily this was a Peekaboo, so it was very easy to go in and fix those spots. And once I went in with the glitter on this, I realized that once it was on there, you really could not even see those white spots anyways. And since we are covering this up with paint, It will be a peekaboo. A lot of that's not even going to be seen. So all I did to fix it was just put a little bit of Mod Podge over where you could see that one white spot and put more glitter just over that and patted it down. I do use KS Resin's Fast Set for this, so I only needed this to sit for about 3 hours, and then I could move on to the next step. Next, I'm going to go in with this metallic green paint. This is just a green paint I got from Walmart. I did not like the first color that I put on, so I'm covering it up with this one. And once you've got full coverage on your paint, I like to let my acrylics sit for several hours. Overnight is ideal, but you really want to make sure that the acrylic on here is dry before you go in and glitter this. And once again, I am using the epoxy method on this side, and I'm just going to use my finger and get as close up to the glitter edge as I can. I'm not going to be totally worried about it because, again, it's going to be covered in paint, and I already know that that seam is going to have a strip of vinyl over it. So it's really not a big deal. Get it as close as you can, and then you can move on to applying your glitter. For the green, I'm using Radical from Diamonds and Dust, and I don't know why it's showing up as a very light pastel green on my camera right now, but it is a very bright neon green color. Once we have glitter on both sides of those, this side is going to sit for about 3 hours, and I'm going to go in with my first coat of epoxy and straight in with my second coat. It's going to take about 2 layers of epoxy to get this smooth enough to start on the next step. Okay, our cup is nice and smooth at this point, so I can go ahead and lay down my decals. I'm going to jump in real quick so you can see how I created the offset on my computer for this file. So I already had this saved on my computer, but I'm adding another one so you can see how I did it. When I got the file from Diamonds and Dust and imported it, the offset was not welded. So you need to weld that first, and then you move the actual SVG back up to the front. I will align it both horizontally and vertically so it's exactly center in the middle, and you will select both layers and slice it. This is what I did for both decals and also the stars, the broom, the wand, and the witch hat, all which I got off of Creative Fabrica. So I went ahead and taped off my pink side already. And the first thing I'm going to do is lay down my pinstripes. And I'm completely eyeballing this and trying to get it as even as I can and spacing it just a little further out than where my tape line is. And I'll repeat the same thing on the other side before I move into my main decal. So when you go in with your Bad Witch decal, be careful where you are placing it. I had to redo this twice because it wasn't placed correctly. Because it's such a weird curve and the way the decal is shaped, it was difficult getting it to look right and even and centered. If you are someone who likes using the wax paper method to apply your decals, that would probably save you having to reapply it twice. Like I did, I, however, am not the biggest fan of using the wax paper, so this is just how I did it. And once that was done, I just went ahead and placed my stars randomly wherever I thought they were going to fit nicely on my cup with the design. I'm sure you guys can guess the next step is going to be painting this black. So I'm going to go do that really quick. I'm going to give it about an hour to dry. And when we come back, we are going to peel them off. So I went ahead and painted it black with Rust-Oleum flat black spray paint. And I am going to wait about an hour until it dries and peel that decal. I prefer using my little X-Acto knife when I'm doing the peekaboos. I don't like my weeding hook at all, so I am constantly using my knife. This has definitely resulted in a few more cut fingers than I would love, but I prefer it. When you're working with any kind of peekaboo, be careful and make sure that you are pointing your knife or your hook towards the inside of your decal. That way, if you slip, and it scrapes, it's not going to scrape on the paint. It will scrape on the part that you are peeling off anyways. Once you have all those decals pulled off, resist the urge to take that tape off. We still need it there. We are going to epoxy this side separately from the pink side. So leave your tape on and we're going to epoxy. Okay, so we are going to take about 15 milliliters of epoxy, and this is Arteza. It is a green glow mica powder. I will have it linked down below. I'm just going to put a nice little scoop of that into my epoxy, and I am using the KS Resins Liquidy Split UV for this because I love it and I have zero patience, so the quicker I can get these done, the better it is for me. Make sure you go in and you hit it with your torch to get any bubbles out and let it spin for just a few minutes before you go in and pull the tape. Be careful when you go to pull your tape. I took my cup off the turner to do this very carefully. You really don't want any tape that has epoxy on it or any of that green to get down into your pink. So just be very careful with that. So I'm going to let this spin for about another 3 hours, and then we are going to be ready to work on the next side. Okay, once that side is cured completely, we are going to repeat these steps on the pink side. The only difference for this side is going to be that you are adding the WaterSlide bubbles. So when you are going and deciding your placement for all of the decals, the stars, the wand, you need to keep that in mind so that you still have enough room for the bubbles. So again, we're just going to repeat the epoxy process on this side. The only difference being instead of using the green shift mica powder, there is a pink one. It's called Ballerina Glow. It's in the same set I have from Arteza, and it just gives off this pink shimmery glow. And then I'm picking off any stray glitter that I might find. And once we're done with that, go through with your torch, and then wait a few minutes, and then you can pull your tape. After that cured for about 3 or 4 hours, I went ahead and sanded very, very lightly, and I did not want to do another layer of epoxy to get these lines smoothed out because I don't like bulky tumblers, and this one already is going to have plenty of epoxy on it. So I sanded those down really carefully where that seam is, and I applied a very light coat of UV resin just to smooth that out so that I can lay my vinyl. I'm using the rainbow holographic, and that shows every little bump and imperfection, so I want to make sure I can get this as smooth as possible before laying those. Once that's all cured, I'm going to go ahead and start laying down my lines. And I'm going to start from the top and just work my way down. Try not to pick your vinyl back up after you've placed it because that will leave marks in this holographic vinyl. This is not my favorite vinyl to use because it is very difficult to reposition if you need to without leaving any kind of permanent marks on that vinyl. When you get down to laying your vinyl over that curve, be very careful. Pull your vinyl a little bit tight so that you can get it around that curve with minimal creasing. So unlike when I laid my Peekaboo vinyl, I did go ahead and use the hinge method on this just because it's so much easier to get those perfectly lined up. And now if this offset were separated and the words weren't touching, I would 100% go in and cut out each individual word and place that offset separately instead of doing one piece as a whole. When you're taking your transfer tape off of this, it's a little bit difficult with this rainbow vinyl to get it off of your transfer tape. So I will fold back my transfer tape and put it flush with my cup and make sure as I'm going that every little piece of vinyl is touching. And you'll see here what I mean, that the D came up a little bit. So I just very carefully and very gently pressed it back down and made sure before I pulled too hard that everything was sticking. We're going to repeat that process with the other side and the stars and all the other offsets that we have. The only difference is when I did the star offsets, I did not use the hinge method. I picked those up with my knife and I hand placed those ones. We've got our vinyl placed and we are ready to add in our bubbles. I had a company send me a package of Waterslide to try, and I will show it to you now. I am not going to try and pronounce the name of this company because I am definitely going to say it wrong, and I'm not even going to try. Okay, you can read it. I'll have it linked, so it will be super easy to find. But I will say, I loved this water slide. It seemed a lot thicker than the stuff I normally buy from Amazon. And it didn't seem to take as long soaking in the water before it came detached. So it minimized the time I needed to complete this. So this company got a 10 out of 10 from me. I will be buying it again, and I will definitely be listing it down below for you guys if you want to try it too. Back to the bubbles. These were just bubbles that I found on Google Images, and I sized them in all different sizes because I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted and in what size. So I printed a variety, sealed it twice, just like you do with any other water slide, let it dry, and then decided where I wanted them to be placed. Once all of those are on there, I'm going to let them dry. I normally will stick these in my dehydrator again, and it'll only take about 20 minutes. If you are not using anything like that, let them dry for several hours. I've heard some people let them dry overnight. Whatever you normally do with your water slides, and then you can go ahead and give it another layer of epoxy over top of that before you do your rims. And once again, you'll see me using my Dremel with the flapper wheel attachment to do my rim, and I'll get that nice clean edge on the top before I move into my last layer of epoxy. And that is it for this one. It turns out so beautiful. It is definitely worth all the work that you put into it. I hope you guys love it, and make sure you like and subscribe. Bye, guys.